My name is Sean Hall. I'm a Qigong and yoga teacher here in Tacoma, Washington. I have my guest here, Lama Tantrapa. He and I are going to discuss our topic today, handling crisis with resilience. Due to the certain events, this was inspired. So I'd like to first introduce Lama Tantrapa, a Bon Lama in the tradition of Tibetan shamanism and the 26th generation lineage holder of his family's tradition of Qigong, also known as Tibetan shamanic Qigong. His teachings integrate the physical, psychological, and energetic practices of this form-free style of Qigong with the essence of Tai Chi, Qigong, and yoga. So, thank you very much for joining us, Lama.
Thank you, Sean, for hosting me on my show. And that's a pleasure to have you as a co-host. It's also a pleasure to talk to all of you folks who are tuning in. I appreciate your time. These are challenging times for all of us. And today, you are going to learn something that perhaps is going to make your life healthier and happier.
That's right. And with the way things are going right now, it's important we need to ask ourselves some questions. And, the one I've been asking myself is, how can I become more centered and calm and even empowered amidst these times of uncertainty? We often reach outside of ourselves for answer to our crisis, whether that crisis be felt physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. We too often get tied to the concept of certainty or stability, and it gets us in a situation where we're unsure. We're so unsure we can't imagine having to adapt or change from the pressure of these extraneous variables. That's when we freeze up and many decisions become fear-based. We begin to struggle against the flow. What if we were able to redirect that energy towards self-empowerment? What could we accomplish? So I invite everybody to try a different concept, accept these challenges, right? As if we were on the path of enlightenment. Accept our challenges so that we can learn from them and grow in a way that doesn't repeat steps we've taken in the past. Learn to relax so that the landmarks along our journey we once perceived as obstacles aren't a challenge, but instead an opportunity to grow.
Almost every journey has some turning points. We don't want to miss them. How can we not miss the turning points? Well, we need to pay attention where the road turns. And many of those turning points have certain milestones or landmarks or some indicators that it's time to change the direction.
Right.
If we pay attention to those and perceive them as such instead of perceiving them as problems, something really remarkable is going to happen. Instead of the road full of problems, we'll be traveling the road full of landmarks and milestones. And we will need to simply navigate so that we are following the path. And that's something that I would love to dive deeper today in our interview.
Being able to, again, relax and understand where those turns are, as well as thinking in terms of like the spectrum, right? Where should we be on the spectrum of completely freaking out, and then on the other side of the spectrum and just burying our head in the sand? Where should we be in regards to that? Because it feels lately like it's, there are two extremes. So how to find that balance, how to know whether or not when we need to turn and when we can look at these as learning opportunities instead of problems.
That's exactly the thing. These are two main mistakes that people make when dealing with challenging times like the ones that we're living through right now. One mistake is to bury the head in the sand, as you said, basically going into denial or pretending like nothing is happening, business as usual, which is going to be dissatisfying in many ways because life doesn't meet our expectations. If we have expectations of things going the way that they used to go, our expectations will be frustrated and it will actually throw us off balance. Now, another way to throw ourselves off balance is by freaking out, getting into panic mode, and basically operating on the energy of fear. And that's exactly what you also described as the opposite end of the spectrum. So finding the sweet spot between those two polar opposites would be a healthy way to find balance and to operate with the least amount of stress and at the same time with the eyes wide open.
Mm. So, in what ways do anxiety, depression, and hysteria play a role? How much of this is affecting our role in this whole thing?
Obviously, anxiety, worries, concerns are all survival mechanisms. If we did not have any feelings about what future may bring, then we would not be prepared to deal with the challenges that future may offer. So it's not like it's a bad thing to have certain concerns about what future may bring. The issue, of course, is that we indulge in this type of emotional turmoil and basically start feeling like that's the standard operating procedure. That's how we should be.
Right.
And if somebody is not freaking out, there is something wrong with them.
Right. That becomes the norm.
Yes. So you see these huge lines, for example, lining up for things like toilet paper. The toilet paper is not an effective method to stop a coronavirus.
Yeah. Right.
It's a way for people to basically pretend like they're going to take care of their family and of themselves in the near future. Now, what happens, unfortunately, is that that's not the most effective way to take care of ourselves and our families. Well, I mean, we're all going to shit, and we will need toilet paper, but the issue is not that. There are many other issues to address, and so in a sense, we kind of negate the more important issues and replace them with something easy to worry about.
Or like unconscious strategies that we typically go into to cope with not being present, essentially.
Right. Basically, what we do is we also create a nightmare of a daydream in our minds. We start daydreaming about what's going to happen in the future. But of course, whenever we have anxiety or whenever we have worries about future, that means that we're creating a picture in our minds that we don't really resonate with. We don't really want that future to happen. So basically, we are focusing on the worst case scenarios. And what is going to do for us, it's going to make us feel more stressed out and tense when we think about that kind of future. It's not like we should never consider worst case scenarios. But that's the tendency of human mind to focus on those worst case scenarios the most because that's what we don't want to experience. Unfortunately, when you focus on something, where attention goes, energy flows. And you actually go in that direction. It's like, downhill skiing. You ski down the slope, and there is one singular tree growing in the middle of the run. And you will be probably thinking, okay, well, whatever I do, I want to avoid that tree. I don't want to hit that tree. How can I get around the tree? Well, if you're focusing on the tree, you're not getting around it.
Right.
Skis are going right for the tree. And that's exactly what happens when we create that kind of a nightmare of a daydream in our minds. We literally start reinforcing the manifestation of exactly that.
Like this being caught up in this world of samsara. Your attention's being called this way and that, and it's just kind of you're spinning around. And instead of nirvana is like the center, right? Like becoming more centered. How can we get back to that center instead of being called, elsewhere?
How can we experience nirvana in the midst of the world of samsara? Well, that's exactly what I teach in practice. How to live life problems free.
Yeah.
To live life problems free, in order to live life where suffering is optional, and you remember that it's optional, you actually need to recognize that suffering is something that is not done to us. Suffering is what we experience as a result of our reaction to the events in our lives. And often the reaction is actually what causes us more stress than the events themselves.
Exactly. I feel like the reaction to everything has been so much more tumultuous than the actual virus itself.
And that's something that obviously happens whenever people freak out or start getting anxious. And that's something that, as I said, is a survival mechanism. And so we cannot just stop thinking about what may happen in the future, because basically we would shoot ourselves in the foot. That is possible, but that's what people do when they go into denial mode, and that's the opposite end of the spectrum. That's just as unhealthy. In other words, we have certain freedom of choice what to focus on. We can focus on things that we resonate with, and by doing that, we actually experience resonance. We experience energy circulating freely through our system. We experience like we are not running into obstacles on our path. When we do that, we can enjoy the ride.
Essentially using the body as kind of like a barometer to see what you resonate with and what you don't resonate with. And so in this way, your choices become so much more clear. It's not this internal struggle, right? Or constantly reaching outside of yourselves.
And just like you said, we use our physical body as a barometer or as a gauge to figure out what it is that we focus on and how much we resonate with that. In other words, if you focus on something you don't resonate with, how does your body feel? Well, most likely your body will start cringing. You start tensing up, you experience high blood pressure, or your heartbeat starts getting faster and faster.
It's an uncomfortable feeling in general.
Yes, the stress hormones, adrenaline, norepinephrine, or cortisol start flowing through your system and actually ravaging the system because they create inflammation response.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, if we don't pay attention to things that we don't resonate with, we may not learn what we need to learn. So, there is a trick that I wanted to share with you today. And the trick is this. It's not like we always focus on things we resonate with because we only want to experience pleasure. No, we actually recognize that sometimes, and in tough times like today, maybe especially important, we have to focus on things we don't resonate with because there is something to learn from that. Right. If we want to learn something that would allow us to experience life more harmoniously in the future, we need to pay attention. But in order to pay attention, we actually need to accept it. Because it's really hard to pay attention to that which you're not accepting. So basically what happens is that we develop the sense of acceptance of the current situation, or as a friend of mine, Mark Johnson, says, current situation.
I've ever heard you do an accent.
The idea of acceptance is something we develop as a habit. We develop the habit of just simply paying attention to what is by accepting what is.
Right, right.
If we don't accept what is, we'll be struggling against the existence. And I've never seen anyone win.
Well, yeah, wouldn't that be the fear-based, like, what's the difference between, knowing what's self-preservation and then fear-based? Like there's, it's like what we're doing to help preserve, what we need. But then there's the extreme of just basing everything on fear.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We develop first acceptance. With acceptance, when we pay attention to that which we already accepted, we don't have the emotional reaction. We can respond to it instead of reacting to it. By responding, I mean we actually are capable of adapting to the experience instead of just resisting it. That's the definition of reaction. It's action against oncoming forces. So basically, if we are in the reaction mode, we are not accepting whatever is going on. We are pushing back or resisting or struggling against it. Now, I don't want to say that should never be any struggle, but we choose our struggles wisely. We choose our battles based on what is it that we really choose to either change, if we find that there is a possibility of change, or at least mitigate, so that the fallout from the experience is not as severe as it could be if we don't deal with it at all. For example, fallout from the current economic crisis. Well, we cannot change the marketplace and what's going on with stocks, bonds, cryptocurrencies, and everything else. But at least we can adapt to it. As a matter of fact, we may even be able to take advantage of some of it. For example, if we buy on a dip. In other words, when the prices go down, that's not the time to sell. People who own stocks, bonds, or cryptocurrencies often freak out and they start selling when the prices go down.
Right, right.
That's actually the time to buy.
That's a good time to buy.
We've been through crisis. We've been through recessions. We know that things go up, things go down. There are certain waves on the ocean of life. And so as we pay attention to these waves, we recognize, okay, well, right now the dip is actually the time when you can invest better. Because then the prices of the same stocks or cryptocurrencies will go up. And then we'll be able to benefit from that financially. Now, we may experience certain loss, but that loss at least is temporary. If we freak out and start selling low, that loss will be permanent. So that basically is one of the things that kind of makes sense if you think about it. But thinking things through is not something that people can do easily when they're stressed. Because those emotional reactions and stress hormones that we were just talking about, they actually cloud our judgment. Right. So instead of sound judgment, we exercise fear-based judgment. And fear-based judgment almost always is going to bite us in the ass. And so that's basically what I would encourage our viewers and listeners to make sure that they don't exercise the fear-based judgment. They exercise sound judgment based on discernment, which is understanding of things.
Right. And, I think with, especially, I know the yoga community and Qigong community here in Tacoma, it's important for us to stick together, but, listen to what we truly want from this. How can we grow as individuals from this? And then, also looking as to how we can grow as a community. So being able to support each other's businesses, since, my personal experience, yoga studios have shut down, gyms, anything, martial arts, whatever your movement practice is, those have all needed to take a hiatus. And I think even in Vancouver, there was a studio that shut down indefinitely. So it's like that. Okay, this is it.
If you're closing your studio temporarily, you're still paying rent or lease.
Right.
So your overhead is still up there, but now your income dropped.
Yeah.
How long will you be able to sustain the studio of paying that lease or rent if you don't have any income? Most businesses don't have that much nest egg to be able to sustain them for several months. It applies not only to yoga studios, it applies to pretty much any business these days, except for some retail stores that actually seem to be doing okay. People are actually having runs on the retail stores to buy whatever they can. However, anything from airline companies to high-tech companies, everyone is experiencing some degree of turmoil.
Major dip, yeah.
How can we take advantage of the opportunities that this crisis presents? I don't remember who said that. I would probably venture to say it was Winston Churchill, who said something to the effect that never let a perfectly good crisis go to waste.
Yeah, that sounds like him. Yeah, I would say that it's a time where I've had to step outside of my comfort zone. I don't really have much of an online presence, so even doing this I'm a little bit nervous, doing an interview, but it's something that is going to help me grow. Again, I'm looking at it and I'm embracing it, because if I don't, like you said, it's like that. You basically find something to focus on, and like the tree is coming, like it's coming. My impending doom is coming, and I continue. If I just continue to focus on that, and not being able to relax and just maneuver my way around it, then I will hit the tree.
Indeed. And what also happens is that we actually recognize that we can help each other. I really appreciate your mentioning that in Tacoma, yoga teachers, Qigong teachers, and other folks involved in wellness disciplines are beginning to think, how can we actually create a stronger community instead of just go home and forget about it?
Exactly. Yeah. I've got students asking me about coaching, one-on-one coaching. So I'm looking at it like, okay, I have to figure out a new way here. And having my own business, I know that it's time now. I can start to really look at this like it can sustain me,
Exactly. And how can it sustain you? Well, one of the ways to sustain it, to sustain you, yourself, and your family, is by putting to good use what you've been learning for a year or more. You've been learning how to become a Qigong coach. You've been learning how to operate online and work with people not only in the Tacoma area or in your locale, but pretty much anyone who speaks the English language would be able to become your student. You would be able to help people who live in other countries. I would say 50% of my coaching clients live in countries where English is second or even third language, and that's okay. They still communicate with me. For me, it's also third language, so I can communicate with them just fine. And what we do is we basically create opportunities for other people who otherwise would not be able to receive this knowledge or this training. So we are separated by thousands of miles. We also give them an opportunity to get healthier instead of get sicker. How to work out, for example, when the gyms are all closed.
Right, yeah.
To do some other wellness practices so we boost our immune system instead of letting it dwindle. Basically, we're constantly working on not just dealing with the troubles and trying to survive, we're learning how to thrive by helping people thrive. And the more people will help thrive, the more people will help us thrive.
Yet it really does hold up a mirror too, because ever since I've been doing this, it's ever since I've been teaching, and coaching, all of it really is an opportunity for me to continually dive deeper into my own practice, be able to help people, realize through their own practice how much it is important to move, how much it's important to come back to yourself, to really again, like find that center, find that nirvana amidst all these things that come up, because they're going to continue to come up. If it's not this virus, it's going to be something else. We're going to have something that's going to knock us over, and we got to learn to be able to roll with the punches and not be completely blown out of the water as a result of these waves of again, rise and fall. These waves, they're going to continue to happen. So being able to come back to yourself, being able to be your own best guru, be your own best teacher. These are the things that I want to help people realize, because it's not something you constantly have to go to a studio for. It's something you can do yourself in your own home. But again, the community is there.
You can basically practice wherever you are. And that's another really important lesson that folks can learn from this particular period in time, that the practice doesn't have to happen only in the yoga studio or in the dojo. The meditation doesn't always happen on the meditation cushion. We learn how to develop the skills that integrate the practice with our daily lives. And if some of us may feel like we're kind of cooped up, stuck at home, well, how can we turn this into the opportunity to learn and grow more?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
This is the opportunity, for example, to do some of those practices that perhaps we didn't have time to do when we were really busy running around. This is an opportunity for us to also learn how to become more centered and more present, rather than spinning a nightmare of a daydream in our minds. This is an opportunity to practice more meditation rather than less.
Right.
How can we do this? That's really easy. One of the ways to do it is to just look up some online training courses and materials. I have plenty of online training courses and materials I can share perhaps in the comments below this video. In fact, we are also going to start a new program for Qigong and Tai Chi teachers.
Yeah, this is really exciting.
Who want to learn how to become Qigong coaches, who want to actually learn how to thrive in the times like this, when we can't actually see people face to face very well. Well, if we can't work with people face to face, it's not the end of the world. We can work with them long distance, and there are awesome methods for doing that. It's tricky because it's totally different from teaching, and it's also totally different from doing therapy. So that's something that obviously will require reorganizing, restructuring some of the knowledge, and also learning how to present this knowledge to people in a coaching method rather than not downloading information into their brains.
And that's my favorite part too, is because it's not something that I feel like that I'm rising up to this level and I'm speaking to the little people down there about my expertise. It's something where we are able to, meet in a way that allows both of us to grow. And it's such a tantric, if I may, way to coach, right?
Yes, and it's a mutually empowering and enlightening process where both people get their needs met. Both people are manifesting their dreams. My dream is to help more people live their lives healthy and happy. If my dreams come true, guess what? More people will be healthy and happy. And if that's their dream, that means that I've helped them manifest their dream. And by doing so, then they will be happy to help me manifest my dream. So basically everyone is expanding together quality of life. That's essentially what I would like us to experience as a result of this tumultuous moment in our history. We're learning how to improve our quality of life rather than waiting for somebody to improve it for us.
Right.
What are we going to do? Wait for the federal government to give us $1,000?
Yeah.
$1,000 is not going to last long. It's not going to improve the quality of life that much. I mean, it's nice. We can spend it.
You're also giving your power away. You're like, I just, somebody, again, it's that idea that we have to always give our power to something else so that we are held or cradled, in this way that we're not able to hold ourselves or support ourselves. So we empower ourselves when we actually take matters into our own hands and really, take life by the balls, so to speak.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're going to continue exploring in our programs. As I promised, I will leave a link to the program or maybe even an online course below this video. Do you have any other questions before we wrap it up today?
I think that pretty much covered all I wanted to ask. I think we've done pretty well here.
Well, let me ask you then. Knowing what it is that you need to be doing, how long do you think it will take you, Sean, to establish your online presence?
Well, I'm here now. I absolutely want to be have much more of an online presence, and I want to be able to support myself through either videos or any other platform. So I'm up for suggestions, and I'm definitely eager to start right away. I mean, right away. I think that if anybody would like to have a coaching session, they can also get in contact with me and PM me here on either Facebook or email at inflowcoach, Sean at inflowcoach.com. I'll put that below as well. And my website, inflowguide.com.
Excellent. So this is something that we can help people develop. I'm actually creating an agency for wellness professionals and holistic healers who need to figure out how to work with people long distance. who need to establish themselves online, who need to create online courses or develop coaching programs. If they have any challenge with online presence, establishing themselves as an expert in the field, or developing programs to offer to people online. I have 15 years of expertise in that now. And that's something that I certainly want to offer to the folks who are looking for that opportunity. I should say it's simple, not always easy. We'll make it as easy as possible just because I'm going to apply my expertise and help everyone who wants to receive help to achieve that. I appreciate your time, Sean, and your willingness to discuss this challenging topic, how to live and thrive in challenging times.
Yeah, no, and thank you. I appreciate you being able to meet during this time and discuss this as well. It's a tough time, but again, I feel like we're getting closer towards giving back, to our communities.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, our viewers and listeners, for taking the time to enjoy our interview today. Please follow the links below. I look forward to speaking to you very soon.